Greetings and welcome back to Haftarot, the video cast series in which we take a look at the upcoming week's Haftara, understand its basic message, and how it's associated with the Kriyat HaTorah that precedes it. My name is Yitzchak Etshalom. I'm delighted to begin a new book of the Torah with you, Sefer Bemidbar, and today we're going to look at the Haftara of Parashat Bemidbar. Sefer Bemidbar is called in English Numbers, and indeed Chazal have that name for it, Chomesh HaPkudim, because it is made up of a census, a series of censuses, both at the beginning and at the end, that count Bnei Yisrael. And it's only appropriate that we have this beautiful Haftara from Hosea, where the beginning of the Haftara promises that the Bnei Yisrael will be so numerous that they won't be able to be counted. And it's beautiful, beautiful blessings. But I want to share the backdrop of that Nevuah and a little bit about who Hosea, the author of that Nevuah, was. When we talk about Nevi'im, we generally think of prophets, great spokespeople, erudites, spokesmen for the conscience of the people and the will of God. We have to remember that when we talk about Nevi'im and the books that we use for the Haftarot, 4 out of those 8 books are historic books. They're narrative books. They tell stories. And here and there are little prophetic pronouncements. And indeed, all of the Nevi'im who operated up until the 8th century BCE had their prophetic words, which were few and far between, if at all, at least that we kept for the record, committed to being interwoven into those stories. For instance, Eliyahu Navi and Elisha Navi don't really have rhetorical, flourishing prophecies. They have statements here and there. They're more known for their actions than for their speech. Literary prophecy, as referred to it, begins in the 8th century BCE. In the 8th century BCE, as Assyria is beginning to rear its ugly head from the east and look westward to attack and ultimately will destroy the northern kingdom of Israel, and Am Yisrael doesn't know what to do. It has adopted pagan and idolatrous ways and involved itself in syncretistic worship, where they worship Hashem, but they also worship Baal, kind of just in case. And they also are, instead of looking to Hashem for their protection, they're agreeing to sign treaties with foreign powers, including powers that have abused them and mistreated them, and they're running back to them as vassals. And the whole picture is one that is ugly, and it is really a classic Chilul Hashem, a desecration of God's name. And it is on to that stage of history that suddenly appear Nevi'im. The first wave of literary Nevi'im, and they come in essentially 4 waves, happens in the middle of the 8th century BCE with the appearance of Amos, Yeshayahu, who we've seen numerous times in our series, Micha, who we will yet see, and Hosea. And according to Chazal, Hosea is the first of them. And the rhetoric is beautiful. The imagery is soaring. The messages are hard-hitting, are painful. Most of the messages are not messages of hope and uplifting, but rather messages of rebuke and chastisement and promised punishment that's coming. And indeed, the words of the Nevi'im did come true, as ultimately Assyria did destroy the north. Ultimately, in the next wave, Yehuda was warned, and Yehuda was exiled, and the Mikdash and Yerushalayim were destroyed, and that's the year of Yirmiyahu. The setting for our Haftara, which again is a beautiful passage, is at the beginning of Sefer Hosea. It's not the first chapter, it's the second. But that means that what we're looking at may be the first recorded piece of literary prophecy that we have in our canon. And it's a beautiful, gorgeous image of Am Yisrael flourishing and being innumerable and returning to Hashem and rekindling the ancient romance from the time of the desert. But the setting is important to understand. In the first chapter, which is very short, Hosea is told to take a wife who is a whoring woman and to have children with her and have those children be considered whoring children. And the children are given names to reflect rejection. Lo Ami, this is not my people. Lo Ruchama, this is a girl who is not, there's no compassion for her. And then we have our beautiful Haftara, which suggests that the fate of these children symbolically represents the fate of Am Yisrael and the relationship with God, And then lo ruchama will be ruchama, and lo ami will be ami. Not my nation will become my nation, and the one with no compassion will indeed experience the compassion of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And here is this beautiful Haftara. I just want to point out two lines in the Haftara that are well known from different contexts, and keep your ears open when the Haftara comes around to hear them. In Pasuk Yod Zayin, the Navi says, "V'natati la et karameha misham," I will give her vineyards back from there. V'ta'emek achor lefetach tikva, the valley of destruction, emek achor, which we start. The first place it shows up is in the context of Yehoshua, when Achan is stoned. Take a look in Yehoshua Perek Zayin at the end. Emek Achor, this valley of destruction, this valley of wrongdoing, will become a petach tikva. Petach tikva means a furrow of hope, a furrow that you plant, a petach, a patiach, with hope to it, that something's going to grow, instead of a desolate valley where nothing can grow. And where an Aim HaMoshavot, the first of the agricultural settlements in Israel in 1888, was formed, they chose the name Petach Tikva from this Haftara. And of course, Petach Tikva today is a flourishing city in the outskirts of Tel Aviv. The last two verses from here are verses that in many traditions we recite when we are putting on, shall we say, our ring around our finger, which is the tefillin straps. Ve'rastichli le'olam. God says to Am Yisrael, I will betroth you forever. Ve'rastichli b'tzedek u'b'mishpat, with justice and with righteousness. B'chesed u'rachamim, with kindness and compassion. Ve'rastichli be'emunah v'yadat et Adonai. I will betroth you in steadfastness, in faith, in trustworthiness, and you will know Hashem. This ultimate promise of an unswerving loyalty and complete commitment to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is how this Haftara ends. We read further in Hosea, which we don't do in this Haftara, and we see that the actual picture is far gloomier, but we always keep this beautiful image in mind as the promise of a glorious future return to a wonderful relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everyone should have a wonderful Shabbat and enjoy the beginning of Sefer Bemidbar.